So so I mean, just to get a little backstory, like a background. So I grew up in Staten Island, New York, small island, one of the five boroughs of the city. Everybody knows each other. Everybody does the same thing. Um, I grew up with that group of friends that I was just speaking about, and we were like never the type that was going to like house parties and things like that. We were like sports kids and good kids for the most part.
All right, so today's episode on the 38 Challenge podcast, we have my dude Frankie Dades on. Frankie is a hybrid athlete. Dare I call you an influencer on
No.
social media? More of a impactor, right? No,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
I'm playing, and man, you've had an impact on my life just through your content, right? On your the messages that you put out there on consistency, on grit, on resiliency, on keep going. When did all that start, man?
Um, it sure as hell wasn't something I grew up with at all. I would say I started with that mindset about at this point, probably like 5, 6 years ago, like taking it like serious, and it's just been compounding ever since. So it wasn't something that I had my entire life, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah.
Hell yeah, man. You talk a lot about stoicism, or not. You don't talk about stoicism, but you have this kind of stoic mindset from my perspective, right? And very motivational, intellectual. You're very in touch with your thoughts and your feelings. When do you write all this down? Like, when do these thoughts come to you, and how do you portray that to people?
Yeah, so I was actually just having a conversation about that with a friend of mine. Everything that because he was asking me kind of a similar question, and everything that I write, post about, it usually it doesn't it's not something like I have like I read and like jot down notes. It a lot of times it comes to me in random places. It'll come to me a lot when I'm on a run, when I'm driving. Sometimes I'll listen to I spend a lot of time when I'm driving listening to podcasts or uh people that motivate me or inspire me, and their mindset will spark a thought in my head, or I'll just see things that I observe on an everyday basis, people that I interact with, that I used to interact with, and it just kind of comes to me. Or even, I mean, the most important is a lot of times it comes from my own thoughts from the past and like
Mm.
what I've dealt with, and I just kind of put it out there. And I mean, that's what my whole content has been based around, is putting it out there, and without any expectation of anyone resonating with it. And the feedback I've gotten was amazing, and more people have similar problems or thoughts and obstacles that they face on a daily basis, the same ones that I did and still do. So that's really where it comes from. It'll hit me at random places, but a lot of times on like the my daily runs or past experiences.
Yeah, man. Do you listen to music when you run, or do you just kind of let your mind run?
Not anymore, no. I don't listen to anything. I don't have my phone on me, no headphones, anything like that. Just me and my thoughts.
Yeah, man. I messed up my knee, so I'll be getting surgery here in a little bit. But I started that habit, kind of ending my workday with running without headphones, and I felt a huge increase in my mental health because I mean, dude, that's when you have the best thoughts. Is when your endorphins are up. When the only thing you can focus on um, is running and breathing and the environment that you're in, right? The things that God has made, and man, those are the best times. That's why I asked, because for me, that's when I thought that my best thinking came.
Yeah. I for a long time, I was only able to run with headphones and music, and that was because I initially, for years, hated running. I didn't truly enjoy it. I did it for, the cardiovascular benefits or whatever it may be. And then I started, really getting into it more, but I truly couldn't enjoy it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I mean, it's hard. It's not easy, and
It sucks.
I,
I don't love it, but
yeah,
I'll start to yeah.
it's true. It's tough. It's so like I would use that as my motivator. So I'd have a running playlist, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. People think like I criticize as if it's you're doing something wrong. You're not. This is my personal preference, but I had like
Correct.
a
Yeah.
running playlist with music that amped me up. The problem is when that music's not there and it's not there to motivate you and inspire you and get you amped up to go run, what are you going to do? So like days maybe my phone died or my headphones weren't working or the weather was horrible and you can't bring a phone out whatever because it's going to get wet. I wouldn't run. Or if I didn't have my headphones, I wouldn't run. And then um I ran my first marathon, and this was like where I drew the line. I got my ass kicked on in the marathon for 26, well, mostly 26 miles, but like the last six were brutal. Um and at the beginning of the marathon, for some reason, my playlist just kept repeating the same four songs on it.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, so for the entire time I had to, and it was on an arm strap on my arm, and I didn't want to have to take the time, take it off, take it out of the thing, go through the playlist and fix it. So I just left it. So I was
Mm-hmm.
listening to the same four songs, and I was like, this is a problem. Like I can't, I need to get used to not running with music and not using this as a motivator. So then like the start of the prep after that, I kind of was just like, I'm not running with music at all. And at first it was like a big adjustment because you are listening to your breathing, you're thinking more, and you have to kind of channel your energy to like stay focused, don't psych yourself out, and then you really get in touch with like that inner voice that's like telling you to quit when you really shouldn't, and you got to learn to fight it. So it's an adjustment at first, but now if I think about even like, oh, let me bring something for a podcast or maybe some music, I don't think I can do it anymore. It's not like something I need.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of habit stacking, and for me it's a form of mindfulness. So when I it's hard for me to lift weights without music because I don't necessarily enjoy it that much. So when I lift weights, I'll listen to music, but when I would run and when I will run again, like I found this as a time of mindfulness and to practice gratitude and focusing on the things around you. So for listeners, give it a shot. Try leaving the headphones and your phone at home and just enjoy the environment that you're in. And we'll get into kind of some different habits later, but kind of going off of this this intellectual side of you, this piece that's I can tell you're in touch with your emotions and your kind of inner being. We'll ask a deeper question now. How would you define vulnerability and what that means to you? Because I see a lot of it through your content.
Yeah. So vulnerability in this aspect, I would define it kind of as like the sacrifice of your comfort and your ego, um, and allowing yourself to kind of be more, trying to think of the word, more out there, I guess. So what I mean by that is you're putting aside like that tough guy image that some people might put up, and your ego to show like that you fail and you struggle, things along those lines. And I saw something the other day that true intimacy demands vulnerability, and it's the truth, and if you want to speak with someone on any like deep level, you got to be vulnerable. If you're putting up that wall all the time of like nothing can bother me, I'm fine, this and that, you're never gonna connect with someone. You need to express your true feelings, and by being vulnerable, you're showing others that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to feel those ways, that you're not always okay, that you do struggle, that you are sad, you're no different than anybody else. And it shows people that's okay. But my message is yes, you may feel those ways, you may go through those hard times, you may struggle on a daily basis, but what are you going to do about it? You can't sit and wallow in it, and I have in the past, and you get nowhere. Your best bet is to focus every single day on bettering yourself, and from that, those struggles are less likely to hold you back. And then going forward, all those struggles and bouts of adversity that you'll face are gonna impact you a lot less than they would have had you never started to face them and get past them. But it all starts with addressing them and understanding that you have them and that it's normal and it's okay. So that to me, that's what being vulnerable is.
Yeah, man, that's a great definition, and it sounds like one that you've had to relate to in your own life. And I find that with with anyone, but especially like type A guys, right? Athletes, veterans, people who are, um, you know, high performing, right? We all have this ego, right? And we have to take off that mask in order to break out of and become the person that we want to become, and that we need to become. And like you said, it's every single day taking steps and doing the uncomfortable thing, right? Being vulnerable, looking within and saying, where can I improve? Where can I ask for help? How can I get better? Those are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. And if you have an ego and you're not allowing those things to be seen, then you won't become the protector, you won't become the athlete, you won't become the man, or you won't become the mother, or whoever it is that you're meant to become.
Yeah, exactly. I relate a lot of things to running. In particular, this goes hand in hand. Like it's an everyday thing. It's not something you're gonna do one day and then that's it. You're good. You're good to go. Just like running, if you run every day, you run a little bit every single day, a few miles here and there, easy pace, you're building up that base. Over time, you're going to get faster, you're going to get better, it's going to become easier to you. You're training for that marathon, let's say. That 26.2, when you get there, it's a long, tough journey, but because every single day you worked on it, built up your fitness, it's not going to be as bad as if you just one day ran, you know, 10 miles and then you didn't do it for a week and then next week you ran 5 miles. It's like your fitness is going to decline. It's something you have to work at consistently every single day, and you'll see that you become better because of it. But you can't just expect to every now and then work on it or when you feel like it or when you're motivated. You got to just constantly strive to better yourself.
100%. It's the same exact thing with your mental health. And just in my own life, I started the practice of cold exposure, right? Because of the things that it does for resiliency and your hormones, and just all these different types of things for your mental health. And what I realized is, like, when I was very consistent with that and I would do it each and every day, I saw dramatic increases in my mental health. Same thing with you, right? If you go out and if you run 10 miles and then you stop for a week and you go out and run 5 miles, that's significantly harder. And what I found is when I stopped doing the cold exposure, those stresses, or like meditation or mindfulness, when I stopped doing those things, then the stressors in my life had a lot bigger impact on me. And you start to spiral again, right? And you have to take a step back and say, okay, what changed, right? What was I doing
Yeah.
that I stopped doing? And it's like when you look at that, and it's like, okay, well, I stopped meditating, or I stopped being consistent with my diet or my training plan. When all that starts to fall off, then everything else spirals. So you have to be disciplined and consistent to get out of whatever rut that you're in.
Dude, yeah, 100%. I just came off like a 2 month hiatus of not running because of my stress fracture in my tibia from I had like it was my third marathon prep back to back and back to back to back. And I guess just the repetitiveness, whatever, overuse wound up happening. And the doctor was like, "Yep, you got to pull from." I was like 2 weeks out from New York City Marathon. My doctor was like, "Yep, you got to pull out, and now you can't run for 2 months or however long. It's anywhere from like 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the severity." So for 2 months, I wasn't running. I was still working out. I was doing what I can, but I noticed that like I was overthinking more. I was getting more,
Mm-hmm.
more like those bouts of worry and worrying about things that I can't control. Whereas when I wasn't not running, when I was running every single day and like everything was normal, I had those under control. It was just like I can't explain it, but like I
No,
knew
dude.
I
I
just felt off, and you just hit it nail on the head. Like I was like, I need to get back on that discipline of everything. I couldn't wait to get back strictly for the mental benefits of it.
Dude, I'm in that point right now because of my knee, and I just had started the habit of running, and I make like crazy ridiculous goals. So I was like, I'm gonna run 38 miles. I had no idea what that even meant. At some point, I will run it, but like, one day I will. But like, obviously, should probably start with a marathon and stuff like that. But so like, I had this goal in my mind, right? And so I started getting really into running, and then so I had completed the we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I did the 38 challenge for 38 days straight. So like, just
Yeah.
which I learned so much about discipline and grit and resilience, and I also learned that like it was a horrible idea because on my body. On my mind it was great. On my body, like, completely turned my knees into dust, and like I was a mess. It did it. um, but then that led me to having basically no cartilage in my left knee, which led to me touring my meniscus, and so I'm waiting on to get surgery for that. But these past, like, month, I'm the spot that you were at without running, like I'm in that spot now, and I'm finding different ways to try to make adjustments, right? That's why I introduced cold plunging. That's why I'm focusing on mindfulness and meditation, because when life deals you these circumstances, you have to find ways to continue to take steps, for yourself. But I know exactly that feeling because I'm literally in it right now, and I can't wait till once I'm healed, bro. Like, it is
I feel you,
dude,
man.
it is
I
feet to the
feel
pavement,
it.
man. I'm pumped.
Just keep your head up and do what you can do, That's all you can. Like there's nothing unfortunately you could do about this except wait, but a lot of people take that as an excuse to just literally just wait. Instead, do whatever you're capable of. If you can't do anything lower body, then work that upper body. Do whatever you can.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we've been hitting the assault bike hard lately, so
There you go.
that's always fun. So, and we'll get into the lessons you've learned from marathon running, and all the things you've done athletically, and just lessons you've learned for your life. Before we do that, man, why don't we get a little vulnerable, and why don't you tell us kind of where these, as you mentioned earlier, these thoughts of your past come from? Why don't you tell us about the darkest moment of your life?
Yeah, so I mean I've had my share of adversity in life, but I always like to revert back to like the first like life-changing per se event. And it was definitely when my parents got divorced when I was young. Um it kind of turned my life upside down from what I knew. And I was also at an age I was like 12, 13, and at that age, you're old enough to understand what's going on, like in the fact that your parents aren't together, but you're not old enough to understand what's truly going on, like the details of everything. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of just seeing everything fall apart, and you don't know why, and you're too young to really understand. Um, so yeah, my parents, they got divorced and my dad moved out. So now I'm kind of, questioning why the hell that's happening. You wind up like looking around, seeing other like things are changing. Obviously, like you got to split time with your parents, and holidays are different, and you look around and you see people with like these families. Everything always looks good from the outside looking in. Obviously, you don't know everybody's story, but just seeing kids like I'm I'm around, like their families seem happy and together and they're spending holidays together. And me, I'm half the time with my mom, half the time with my dad. And my dad was in an apartment, so a lot of time I was sleeping on a couch, and I just tried to. I, a lot of times when kids are young and their parents get divorced, um, they try to like pick sides. Usually they side with one or the other, and they'll most likely stay with that parent more. Me, I was like, all right, whatever happened, happened. I'm gonna maintain a relationship with both my parents as best as I possibly can. And so I did. I would spend time with my mom, my dad. I would stay in his apartment, whatever. And our connection was he was my boxing trainer. So I was going to the gym with him. He was training me in boxing. And yeah, it was tough. For them, I kind of acted like I was okay, but deep down, I had like a beef with the world. I guess I was kind of pissed, angry, acting out as a little kid, doing stupid things, hanging around people that I probably shouldn't have. And yeah, that definitely it affected me for a few years mentally. Not even so much the divorce. It was the process like after when they start going through like custody battles and things of that nature, because that's where like they're really fighting. And it was just like I was young, like I said, 12, 13, and went on till maybe I was like 16 before things like calmed down, and was going out early, and I would stay out late because I just didn't want to go home and see and hear about it, or see my parents fight, or what happened in court today when they went. And like it was stressful at a young age. And you're not really conditioned at that age to handle it, or be exposed to it. So it was definitely a tough bout to deal with at that point.
Yeah, man. Well, I didn't know we were gonna go down this route today. But yeah, my parents got divorced when I was 12 years old as well. Um, and to this day, I think it's the thing that I probably don't talk about the most, right? Like that is the thing I'm probably least vulnerable about for a couple of reasons. For my parents' privacy, but also just because I haven't dealt with, I think, the trauma from all of that, right? And
Yeah,
I think that vulnerability is not like getting on social media and like just like problem spewing and like talking about everything. That's not what vulnerability is, right? Vulnerability is you actively taking um, a look at what's going on inside of you and then having the strength to ask for help and to work through those issues. And like for me still, man, like that, those are the things that I deal with as well. And I just remember the same thing, like being 12 years old, I remember um, locking myself in bathrooms, right? Like crying my eyes out, man, like not all the fighting and all that stuff. It's really hard for someone at that age to go through. And I think that a lot of people carry on that trauma and that experience from the past because they were so young, they didn't know how to deal with it, and it continues to affect them throughout their life. Do you feel like you've been able to address it later in your life? And if so, like how are you able to kind of deal with those emotions and that experience?
um, yeah. Things are like good now. They were, like I said, for a few years. It wasn't everything. Obviously, at this point is calmed down. I I don't. It's something I really never thought about. I don't know if I had ever addressed them. I kind of got to the point where I got used to it, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and um, like it's not something that I shy away from. Um, I don't know how it affected me. Maybe it affected me in the sense of why I was had like such confidence. I don't know what the correlation would be. Maybe that's why I had
I don't either.
such
I'm trying to figure it out, but so
yeah, maybe so maybe I try to think about it a lot. Like, is that why I was so unconfident when I was a kid? Why I was like I had no self-discipline. I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. As far as like the actual situation about it at this point, I'm used to it.
yeah, of course.
Everything is good. So it's not something that I shy away from where like I won't address it. I just don't know personally how it affected me emotionally because I back then I was holding in my emotions, like you said, I remember I would sit at the top of the stairs and like listen down
Mm-hmm.
when I was supposed to be sleeping, but they were fighting downstairs and it was just like it was heartbreaking at that time. But then going in front of my parents and acting like I'm fine, or then I'm going to school and I'm acting like I'm fine. But I was lucky enough, group of kids I grew up with that I was hanging around with at that time. Everybody pretty much had similar home issues, like with parents getting divorced or anything along those lines. So we were kind of able to be each other's support system in that sense. And yeah, that's why a lot of time I was spending not home. I was hanging out with my friends and like we kind of helped each other through that in a sense, I guess.
Right, man. Yeah, and I think, yeah, I'm not a divorce expert nor am I a therapist, so I don't know any of the answer to these questions. But I think for anyone listening, um, most of our audience is is middle aged. But if you're going through a divorce, or if you are a kid whose parents are going through a divorce, I think it's kind of like normalized in society now because it is a pretty normal
Yeah.
thing. But it's not. It's like when you are a child and you are in the middle of your parents separating, like, one, it grows you up very fast, and two, like, it is you for most people I've talked to with divorce, like, you try to hide a lot of the things that you're going through. That's exactly what I did and what I still do. And what I would challenge people to do is to be vulnerable, right? It's okay to talk about it and to have uncomfortable conversations with both parents, because you matter, and they care about you equally. But just the unfortunate circumstances is sometimes it gets messy. So I definitely relate to that, man. So you talk about kind of, and a lot of the things that you say, you talk about this like past version of you and then this version of you now, right? When did all that change, right? When did, I guess, the old Frankie, when did you say goodbye to the old Frankie and into the new one, and what did that whole journey look like?
So yeah, so I mean just to get a little backstory, like a background. Yeah, so I grew up in Staten Island, New York, small island, one of the five boroughs of the city. Everybody knows each other. Everybody does the same thing. Um, yeah, I grew up with that group of friends that I was just speaking about, and we were like never the type that was going to like house parties and things like that. We were like sports kids and good kids for the most part. Um, but I at that age kind of was like I was not obese, but I was not in shape. Although I was playing sports, I was boxing, I played football, basketball, and I had talent in all of them. And I probably could have done something, even if it was like, go to college and play even D3, whatever. I could have done something with them, but I had a serious self-confidence issue. I psyched myself out of everything. Everyone was better than me in my eyes. Everyone would beat me in my eyes. I just kind of ate whatever I wanted. I was on the heavier side, and I always looked at like my friends that I was around at that time. They were all like we were young, but like they were like they had abs when we were that young, and like they were in good shape. And then there was always me. I just felt like fat and out of shape. And to me, it was like, oh well, that's my genetics, and I'll always be that way. There's nothing I could do about it. And like confidence. Like never thought a girl would be interested in me. So it was like that was out of the question. I just literally nothing positive I had to say about myself. Everything was an excuse, and I believed every single one of them. Um, yeah, that pretty much lasted throughout college. I was, went to college, gained freshman 30,
Yeah.
cafeteria food,
Uh-huh.
same thing, just, never just lazy. At that point, I was just lazy, sleeping late, staying up late. Um, and then by like the end of my senior year, around that, yeah, probably senior year, I started to like take fitness a little bit more serious and like learned, mind you, I was also lifting, working out since I was like about 13. I joined my first gym. I was always in the gym or I was always playing a sport, but
Mm-hmm.
problem was I had no knowledge of nutrition or anything like that. I just didn't know anything. So when I was old enough, junior, senior in college, I did some research on my own, learned a little bit, and started to apply it to my life. I started to get into better shape. Wasn't heavy anymore. Abs were peeking through, um,
Hell yeah.
and I started to lose that weight. Right out of college, literally the day after I graduated, I went into construction union, and I always say that was probably the best thing to ever happen to me. It taught me a lot, work ethic, and pretty much throw a young kid into a man's world, and
Mm-hmm.
you gotta adapt. If we could talk about that experience if you want to, but at that point I lost the weight. Now I'm 21 years old, and now I'm starting to get that attention that like I wasn't getting when I was a kid. I'm in better shape. I'm not fat, and now it's like I could go out to the bars because I'm of age or whatever. So instead of taking the confidence that I got from losing weight and getting a little bit in better shape, and like, you know, going off that, I took the other path and I was like, well, now I'm gonna do what everybody else does, what I never got to do. I'm going out to the bars, I'm gonna party. I want the attention from the girls. I want to be the popular kid. And now I'm out at the bars and I'm wasting money on bottle service and I'm getting shore houses and it's just like, every weekend I'm living Monday through Friday just to get to Saturday and Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to the weekend, and the week would come again and it was a blur because I don't care about the week. I just want the weekend. I want to go out. And to me it was like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I was surrounded by people that felt the same way. They were like, oh no, like we're young, early 20s. This is when you live it up. Once you get to 30, your life is over. You need to do this now, need to do this now. So like I was like, all right, well, if I need to do this now, I better get it out of my
Yeah,
system
man.
if my life is over at 30. Like, and think back now and I hate that mentality that I ever had that. But whatever, it is what it is. And I did that for a few years. And then like it started to like dawn on me that I was like,
Yeah, eat at you. Yeah.
I don't enjoy this. I was like, it's the same thing, it's the same people, it's the same music. It's like, and every morning after I'm waking up and like looking at my bank account, it like hurts my heart because I'm like, what the hell did I just spend money on? Like for what? With nothing to show for it. So I'm like, I had to like take a real inventory of my life and look around and be like, who am I surrounding myself with and what am I doing and where am I going to be if I continue on this path in 5 years, 10 years? Am I going to be still doing this and living paycheck to paycheck just to look like the guy who's balling out on a bottle service table?
Yeah,
Or do I
dude.
want to at that point be looking to buy a house and like property and make a home gym and just feel good and just be starting my life at that point? And I was like, all right, I don't want to be doing this when I'm 30 and 35. So I need to make a change now. And like I said at the beginning of this, I'm from Staten Island. It's very small. Everybody is knows each other. It's 14 miles long. So everybody does the same thing. And if you're that one person that's doing something different, you stand out.
Yeah, and
So,
I got a couple thoughts just because
yeah, go.
well, because I'm kind of in that spot now, and a couple points is like, those people who I truly don't believe like people have a lot of people have bad expectations, right? Or like they don't have bad intentions. Those people who are like, this is what you do in your 20s, that's what they did in their 20s, and so you have to look at like their experience, and that's truly what they thought that you do in your 20s. But if you know that you're meant for something else and you have dreams and things that you want to accomplish, and you can't listen to a person who's in a spot that you don't want to be in. Like, why would you listen to someone's advice if they say, hey, this is what you do in your 20s? Like, hear it all the time, like, live it up, enjoy it, go out. Like, this is the time where, you like, just don't care, don't ever worry. Like, 20s is all about exploring and growing, but at the same time, like, why would I listen to their advice if my dreams and my goals are, by the time that I'm 30, I want to be not even close to where this person is? Why would I listen to what they're telling me to do in my 20s? That's kind of the thing that I think about. And also, it's not like a judgment on other people, right? Like I'm sure you're the same way. Like, I don't judge people who want to go out and want to do that. But it's like, for me, I have this expectation for myself, and I know that I'm destined for greater things and better things. So you have to give that stuff up if you want to achieve the thing. You have to sacrifice something if you want to become the person that you're meant to be.
Yeah. I was literally just about to say something very similar. So that's the thing is I don't judge anybody. A lot of the people that I used to be around still doing the same thing, and do your thing. If there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that's how you want to live, go for it. I don't look down upon you, but when I decided to change, and like now I started turning down plans, and spending my Saturday mornings in the gym, or my mornings in the gym, and I'm posting about it, and people judged me. I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
was. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, people would message me and be like, yo, you're posting too much fitness stuff, or make a fitness account. And I'm like, do I slide in your DMs when you're posting pictures of green tea shots at the bar, and say like, yo, you're posting too much alcohol, like make
Yeah.
a separate account? It was like kind of weird to me. I was like, are they really, like, people are really judging me for this? And like, it got to a point where there were people I know that like made like mock posts about me, like copying what I do, like with like deadlifting or something like that, and writing like, am I an influencer now? Like something like that, like really like coming at me. And it was like disheartening at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost stopped me in my tracks from like continuing, because like I started to it gets lonely, man. It was like no one's hitting me up anymore. Those kids that I thought were my friends weren't. I'm not getting texts anymore. I'm not getting invited anywhere anymore. My DMs are getting swarmed with people making fun of me. So I was like, I'm not gonna post. Like, this is embarrassing. And every time I would go to post something, I would think about it, backspace, I would not post it. And it was just like, eventually you had to be like, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. I'm posting how I want, when I want, and I did it, and continued to push through that pushback, because I just stopped caring. And I'm so happy I did, because I lost a ton of people that I considered friends along the way, but I've connected with like-minded, goal-oriented people that I
Mm-hmm.
never would have expected, like yourself. Like, had I not, me and you would not be having this conversation, and I'd probably be in the same position I was a few years ago. So I'm
Yep. Yeah,
so
man.
happy that I pushed through that.
And I got a couple questions for you because,
Yeah.
like, dealing with slash have dealt with them. I think for me, a lot of the times my anxiety and my depression and like when I get in ruts is because I am doing things that I know are taking away from the person who I want to become. Right? There's this gap between who do you envision yourself to be and what are the actions that you're doing and do they align? right? And if they do not align, then that a lot of the times is what is leading to anxiety, leading to depressive thoughts, and then going into a depression, into a rut. Have you ever experienced a time like that in your life where it was like you kind of alluded to it earlier, but it starts to eat at you?
Yeah, for a while because it wasn't like one day I just woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Yeah.
no, I was very scared of one, FOMO, fear of missing out. I was like, I'm gonna miss out on thing, like, because it's still in my head. It was still in my head, like, this is what I have to do. Am I gonna regret like not missing out? And then I was still had the fear of what people were gonna say and think about me. So like, I was living a life to please other people, but deep down, I was like, I don't want to do like I don't want to be here right now, and like, it just like I just felt so unfulfilled, and it's depressing, and it brings you down. And yeah, once I stopped and like got past, because it wasn't right away either, where like I automatically felt better. I got past that fear of missing out and like got past the care of worrying about what people think about me, is when I started to like, all right, now I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and like it just kind of aligned naturally, you know.
Right. Is there like a specific moment or like a kind of like a rock bottom during that time where you were just like, I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again? Is there a specific moment that you can remember?
Yeah, I mean, not in particular, like that I could think of off the bat, but like like the circumstances. Like I just know that I was like, it got to the point where I was just running up my credit card. Um, I was like waking up, just feeling horrible, like how because of like just alcohol does that to you, and
Mm-hmm.
like I looked in the mirror and I started like was, you could tell like I was out of shape, like I was starting to let myself go more, and like it didn't like, you're sitting in bed for the like let's say you go out Friday night, I'm in bed for Saturday, Sunday, because of Friday night, because like you're just so unproductive. I just felt horrible. I just felt horrible about myself, and just something deep down inside of me like knew you I'm meant to be doing something else. So it wasn't a specific moment like where it snapped to me. It was just like the circumstances that I was in. I was like, my finance, like nothing about me was right. I mean, I had a good I was in the union working construction, had a good job, but I was blowing all my money. Physical, I looked like crap and I felt like crap. And my mental state was just living for the weekend. And it was like, that's no way to live. Like how long is that? It's not sustainable. How long am I going to be able to do that? I want to get my life going, and you got to, when you start to look in the future, it's like, if I stay on this track, I'm never going to be any like success. The success is out of the question. I'm not going to buy a house. I'm not going to have a car. I'm not going to, at that point, even if you want to start a family, you're not starting a family. And I see, because there's people that I was around who were at the age that I'm speaking of now, like 30, even 35, and I was around them and I'd see them, and like it would kind of be like, is that really what I want to be doing? You know, when I'm of that age. And you have to have a real accountability lesson with yourself, and take that inventory and just execute on it, because it's important, because if you don't act, it'll flash before your eyes, and you'll be that person when you're 30, 35 years old, who's still living in the night scene and trying to, look like the baller, but living paycheck to paycheck, running up your credit card in debt. Like it's just, it's not a way to live.
Yeah, man. How long did the feelings of FOMO and loneliness? How long did that last for?
Um, well, FOMO, I would say, uh, I got over that. I would say, like maybe 6 months. Took like, where I just kind of was like, God, because like people would still hit me up at first. Like, not everybody just kind of dropped me right away. Like the people that I used to go out with, um, they would still like text me to go out or whatever, and like it would, I'd say no, and like it would kind of eat at me. Like, should I go? Should I just go? And like I was like, no, no, no. So it took like a few months for that to subside. The loneliness that comes and goes till this day,
Mm-hmm.
when like especially like summertime comes around and everything like that. And like I remember this past summer, I'm Saturday mornings I'm going for long runs because I'm thinking of my marathon coming up, like training for my goals. And in the summer, people are on a nice Saturday morning, people are, down at the beach, whatever they're doing. So like it's not it's not like ideal. And another thing is my two best friends who I would run with, and basically we're like, we just, our minds are the same. I was like, they were always there with me. We relate on so much things, so much of the same goals. They left for the army, and they're gone now. They left. One left in July, one left in August. So that I didn't feel as alone when I had them around because like I was always with them and it was like normal because we think the same way. But they both left to go pursue some great things in the army that they have goals for, which I respect. But now, you know, that bout of loneliness comes around because like I don't have them to hit up like for my Saturday long run, or let's go to the gym or whatever we're gonna do, because they're gone. And it's I don't really have many people in my direct vicinity that are on the same mindset like level as me. And I'm not saying I'm higher or lower than anybody. I'm saying my mindset is a lot different than people from where I am. And unfortunately, there's not anyone that I could always call. There's a few that are around every now and then that I could hit up, but like not like they were. So the loneliness comes and goes. You just need to keep your mind on your goals and where you want to be. And unfortunately, everybody that is like-minded that I grew close with, they're not a 20-minute drive away. A lot of them live in different states. So we get together when we can. And when I'm alone, I just need to know that I'm on the right path for me, and that's it. I'm not living for anybody else, and this loneliness will pass. At some point, you will connect with people who have that same mindset as you, and
Mm-hmm.
if you just trust the process, it happens naturally.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, I heard. Forgot who said it, or where I heard it, but when you start to make the change that you did, right, and you are turning into, because people always say it's lonely at the top, but it's lonely in that kind of middle part, right? Because you're with people, and then when you start to separate from them, like I think that's the spot that you're at now. It's like there's not a lot of people who are chasing the same things that you are, because you're not at your goals yet. And then once you achieve those goals, then when you're at the top, and that's when it becomes not lonely anymore, because there's people who are around you who are at that same top percent, and now those are the people who you're hanging out with. Those are the people who you're relating with, and I know that I will have those, and I do have those same thoughts, because and the goals that I have, and the dreams that I have for myself, like it definitely becomes lonely, and you just have to realize, like, it's not lonely at the top, it's lonely right before you get there.
Yeah, yeah. And in this that it's like it's not, I don't look at it as a negative that
Mm-mm.
I'm not, I don't have a million people calling me to go out somewhere, because I know I learned that they weren't my true friends, obviously, because once I stopped benefiting them, they weren't around anymore. So I've been taking this time in these past couple of years. I've I feel like it's more important to spend more time with like family. And I've prioritized that over anything. And I have no complaints. I enjoy it, and I think that's the most important part is, surround yourself with a good support system, people that love you, and it just you won't, those feelings of loneliness won't uh you know overcome you. You
Right.
won't feel so alone if you're hanging out with your family, and tell them, talk to your family about your goals and things like that. and they support you. You see that they support you, and that's who really matters, and that's who you should spend your time with.
Right. 100%, man. And so, as you are kind of transforming into this person and continuing to, what does that journey looks like? What are things that you've learned along the way?
Along like what? Like
Yeah. So just like, as you're transforming from this past Frankie into this new person, like what did that transformation
oh
begin to look
yeah.
like?
Um, I definitely started to hold myself accountable more for my actions and excuses. I catch myself like I said earlier, I had every excuse and I believed every single one of them. I now know that it's false. I prove that to myself pretty much every day by doing something that I perceive as hard. Whether it's a run, it's a lift, it's cold plunge, whatever it is. Um, but most importantly, I set goals for myself now that I never used to do. I never used to set any type of physical goal to show what I'm capable of. But this past almost 2 years now is that's all I've been doing is achieving a goal. What's next? Achieving a goal. What's next? Achieving a goal. What's next? And so I definitely learned to um, that I definitely learned through this journey of from the old me to now that I'm more capable of what I tell myself or what I used to tell myself. And that voice still comes every now and then. But I'm on a constant journey to show that it's not true. And I haven't shown myself what my true potential is yet. And I plan to continue to um, pursue different goals that will push me physically and mentally. And, God willing that I stay healthy. So I learned that. I learned work ethic over the years, how to be reliable in work. Um, just really overall growing as a person. I was very, very irresponsible, very lazy, very undisciplined, and I recognize that now. I never used to accept it. I would deny it. And I recognize how I was. And now it's like priorities of mine on a daily basis to make sure that I'm not living that way. So I'm up early. I'm not sleeping late anymore. I'm not going to sleep late anymore. I'm everything I have to be at, whether it's work or some event, whatever it is, I'm early. I'm earlier than I have to be because I believe that if you're not early, you're late. So if you have to be there at 7, I'm getting there at 6, 6:30, the latest. If you get there at 7, you're late. Just small lessons that things that I never used to think about that now I do, and I feel makes me more of a dependable person for myself and for those that I am around and love.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned you're setting these hard goals and you've set hard goals and you've accomplished them. What is the proudest moment or the hardest goal that you've hit so far?
All right. Um, that's a tough one. So last year I did I did my first half marathon. I did right after that I went into a bodybuilding prep, which I've never done a bodybuilding prep before, and especially directly from half marathon, which are two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
After the bodybuilding show, I wound up coming first place in my class, first show I ever did. um, I went directly into my first marathon prep, and I only had 9 weeks to train for this marathon. Considering it was my first marathon, it's not smart. I trained myself. That's also not smart. Um, Also coming off of the bodybuilding prep, completely depleted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man.
Uh, yeah. So like it was a perfect storm, and it was not smart, but I had my goal, my eyes set on this goal, and it was also the BPN marathon, and I didn't want to miss that. So it just so happened I had 9 weeks. I was like, all right, I'm going to train however I can to do it, and I'll get it done. I went there. It was in the back hill country roads of Texas with on my Garmin it said 700 feet of elevation gain and loss with 20-mile-per-hour headwinds. So it was not ideal conditions for your first marathon, let alone any marathon that you're looking to make a significant pace or time on. So I ran it, like I said, with only 9 weeks of training. It was going well. The problem is, 2 days leading up to it, you're supposed to hydrate. So I chugged gallons of water without sodium, not realizing that it was flushing out my
Mm.
electrolyte system. Um, so that leads me into what happened during the race. So I'm running the first 20 miles. It felt, I felt it was tough. It was hilly as hell, but I was on pace. I wanted sub 4 hours, and I was on pace for about a 350. And at like 19.5, my quad started twitching. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I never recognized that even during training. So I'm trying to rub it out. It goes away. Mile 20 comes. Now it's like back twitching again. And about 20.5, I go to take a step and my leg completely seized up. And I fell to the ground because I couldn't bend my leg. And it was convulsing like this, my quad. It looked like there was an alien in my leg and it was
Oh my gosh.
painfully convulsing.
Yeah.
So I'm like rolling on the floor. Mind you, this was a private marathon, so there weren't thousands of people around. I was in the back, on a back road by myself, a mile in between two aid stations. So I'm like laying there and I'm like, I in my mind is like telling me, quit, next aid station, go, just quit, like let them pick you up, drive you back. And I wanted to so bad, but I was like, I'm getting up, I'm finishing this marathon. I have 6 miles left. So I somehow get my leg to bend. I stand up and I start limping, like kind of like jogging, sort of, but I couldn't bend my leg. And that last 6 miles was the hilliest. It was the worst part. And I'm hitting every hill, and my leg is just locked up in pain.
Mm.
And then the left one starts. So now that one's convulsing. So basically, I just limped across the finish line. I wound up making it all the way there. That last 6 miles, I wanted to quit every single step of the way. I was so angry and disappointed in myself. Across the finish line, I had to be carried to like a chair to go sit down because I couldn't bend my legs. And I finished in like 4 hours and 19 minutes. Shortly 4 months to the day, I ran Buffalo, New York Marathon, and I PR'd by 42 minutes. I finished 3 hours and 37 minutes, and I owe that to my failure in Texas because that marathon taught me more about myself than I could have even imagined. It taught me lessons about how to run and how to properly fuel, hydrate, and train. And it also taught me what I can overcome in like the most painful state that I can imagine because it was brutally painful, and every step of the way I wanted to quit, and I just kept speaking out loud saying like, we're not done, we're making it across the finish line, we're not done, we're not done. Like, I just had to constantly positively self-talk myself 6.2 miles on hilly roads where I could barely walk. And that showed me like nothing is too hard for me, and my limits weren't there. So now I'm gonna keep searching for those limits that I spoke about earlier.
Yeah, man. How did you feel good when you crossed the finish line? Like not
I
obviously
didn't.
not physically, but like mentally, did you
No, no. At
really?
first I didn't. I was embarrassed of myself. I was disappointed because I thought I was gonna do well. It wasn't until like a few days later that like mentally I looked back and I was like, all right, I gotta give myself some credit there, and like now I just need to go back to the drawing board and set another goal and redeem myself. And I did. So initially, no, I was very disappointed. I didn't even want like the to see my time, like nothing. I was so angry, but I got over it. That was ego speaking.
I love the picture that that draws though, because I mean, dude, that's what this life can feel like sometimes, right? Like you are in pain, Like you are just focusing on the next step, the next step. Both your legs are compulsing, right? Like you're like, I cannot do this, but you just continue to push forward past the finish line. And then once you do that, once you pass the finish line, that's when you become the person that you're meant to be, right? The one who's knocking out a marathon in 3.5 hours, right? Who's PRing, right? And then who understands that his mind is the only one who's telling him his capabilities, and that's exactly what that marathon taught you. And it's the same thing for people who are feeling with thoughts of depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation right now. It's like it's painful, man, and you are limping, and you might see the finish line, you might not, but you have to talk positively to yourself, right? You have to have people there to push you and just keep taking that next step, because beyond that pain is the best version of yourself, which you were able to find.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And one thing, I mean, people who are struggling can use this too. Use this in life, use this in running, use this anything. But I'm going to revert it to running, especially during that marathon. Um, One thing that I always say is you're you could have goals, make big goals, but most importantly, make small goals to help you get to that big goal. So let's speak in terms of that marathon. My goal was to hit 26.2. And how am I going to get there? I'm not just going to fly to 26 miles. So I'm limping. I had 6.2 miles to go. If I sit there and if you saw how slow I was limping, like that 6 miles seemed like a very long time. So how am I going to look at that last six without overwhelming myself, knowing that it's going to be hard, it's going to be hilly, it's going to be painful? How am I not going to overwhelm myself? Because if I sat there and thought I still have 6 miles to go of this, then I would have quit. So the way you break that down is I'm running, I look ahead of me, I see a tree. I'm going to make it to that tree. You get to the tree. Now, all right, I got to the tree. Now I'm going to get to that that fire hydrant, and you get to the fire hydrant. You keep doing that small little goals that will get you to that big goal. So the way you can relate that to life is you have a big goal, you want to be something, whatever it is, you want to open a business, you just know where you want to be. Don't look at that goal because like keep it in the back of your mind, but don't look at that every day because it's not going to be easy to get there. It's going to be far. It's going to be the path ahead won't be straight. It'll be curved, hilly, bumpy, and you will stop and there'll be roadblocks. And if you let that deter you and take another path, you'll never get there. So you need to set small goals for yourself. And the way you do that is by setting goals for yourself every single day. I call them non-negotiables. What do you what is non-negotiable that you're going to do every single day no matter what? You're going to wake up early, you're going to stay up later and get it done. If you're training for a marathon, you're going to wake up, you're going to run first thing in the morning before you do anything else. If you want to write a book, what are you going to do? First thing you're going to do in the morning is write a page. You want to learn something, first thing you're going to do in the morning is read something to research whatever you want to learn. Just the list goes on, but that's your non-negotiable. Every single day, small habits will lead to big dreams. Consistency compounds over time.
I love that, man. Yeah, and when you don't set those non-negotiables in those things that you need to get done, and just looking at the next day, then that's when life becomes very overwhelming. And I felt that in my own life a lot. So when you
Yeah.
look at all these different options and all these different opportunities, and you think, I have this goal, but is it even possible that I get there? It's like, dude, if you, let's say you have this, this rainbow out in the distance you're trying to get to, if you just put your head down and you look at the next step, like you will run into it at some point. Like you will run into whatever that it is. So just put your head down, take the next step that you can see, have those non-negotiables, and you will be so much further in this life than you ever could have possibly dreamed. And you will achieve those goals. It's just as a matter of time and consistency. Um, do you have what are some goals that you've set for this year to continue to push past the boundaries you thought were possible?
Right now I haven't announced my next race yet. but
Okay. So we'll keep that on the
I
low.
yeah, I won't. I mean that everybody knows that's on the agenda. Just expect something in the spring. My overall goal for that and marathon running is I would like to hit a sub 3 marathon, which coming from someone who was never able to run not ever able to run a mile without stopping. Um, to me, that seems it's like unachievable for myself, but I'm gonna prove that I can do it. After that, I want to get into the ultra space. So, but I don't like to look too far ahead. So right now it's this race that I have planned in the near future and hoping I'm still slowly getting back after this injury, hoping that I don't re-injure myself. But I learned from that setback. So I'm taking those lessons and I'm going to apply it this time going forward. And hopefully we could hit that goal.
Hell yeah, man. As we begin to wrap up, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone in their early 20s, or you would go and give back to your old self?
Um, I guess for both, for myself and for anybody in their early 20s, be be the person that you look up to. Be the person that that person looked up to. So when you were in your early 20s, teens, whatever it is, and like for me, when I was that age, I try to be the person that I was looking up to at that age, the person that I needed when times were hard and it seemed unbearable and that I wasn't going to get through it. Aim to be that person. And the way you do that is to become the best version of yourself every day. So strive to be better. Like if you're in your early 20s right now, look at who you want to be in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and start now. Because if it's nowhere near what you're at right now, then you need to start getting on that path because if not, you're going to waste time and look back and have regret that you never pursued what you're truly capable of. If you are on that path, it's not going to be easy. It will feel lonely at times, as we talked about before, but keep it up because one day you will look back and you'll be like, I cannot believe how far I've come. So, yeah, be that person.
Oh yeah, man. Last question for you. For people who we spoke about it earlier, but if you could think of one thing that either you practice, whether that be something you do for your mental health, or one piece of advice, what would you give to someone who is in that dark, deep depression right now, who maybe can't even see out of a tunnel or a next step? What advice would you give to that person?
Um, yeah, that's it's a tough place to be. You need to first be present, understand what it is that you're going through that's making everything so dark. You need to assess and see what can you control and what do you have absolutely no control of. I'll tell you what you do have control of. Your mindset, your physical well-being, and how you respond to what's happening. You can't control what anyone else is doing. You can't control anything that's outside of you. So accept that they can't be controlled and see what you can do to better understand and respond to what's going on. So, first step is to be present. Second step is to assess. Third step is to make changes to what you can be doing. If that starts with just the thought in your head every day and positive self talk, just wake up every single day and say something positive. After that, make a positive action. Don't keep wallowing and worrying and falling more deeper into the black hole. You got to start climbing up. So start by making small changes every single day. If it's eating something better, if it's going for a walk, if it's meditating, if it's anything, start small and just let it compound over time. And truly understand what is going on in your life and how you can adapt and kind of sway and change so that you can make that better. It's not going to be easy. It does seem like it's undefeatable, but you will get through whatever you're going through if you want to. So you need to take those steps and just do what you can.
Absolutely, man. One step at a time, being consistent, having those non-negotiables, and even though at first like it's not, you're not gonna wake up one morning and crush the workout and everything's better, but over time, once you are true to yourself and once you take those steps, then it will be a long journey, but you will be so happy that you did it, and we'll be
Yeah,
happy too.
personal excellence is the best way of overcoming anything. And I promise you, it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. Once you better yourself, you better the world around you.
Hell yeah, man. Where can, because I found inspiration from following you on Instagram and on social media. Where can people find you and get that same sense of inspiration and motivation?
Most active on Instagram at Dranky Fades, DrankiefADES. And I also just started a Twitter for some more inspiration if you're interested. That is actually the same thing. Dranky Fades. Frankie the Greek is like the username. So yeah, you can find those. That's where I'm most active as of right now. And reach out. I answer all DMs and messages as long as they're genuine.
Hell yeah, man. Well, dude, I'm so glad that we connected. I'm so glad I reached out to you and we were able to have this conversation. Looking forward to seeing what you crush next, man, and continue to inspire other people, make a difference in this world.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me. It was a good conversation.
Yes, sir. Peace.